Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Living in Contemplation. I am your host, Lene. Let's get started. This is the second episode. This episode is about toxic relationships. It is part one of a three-part series. And yeah, let's get started. So I tend to have a habit of getting off topic sometimes. So I'm going to try and get through this as fast as I can. So obviously that means I'll be leaving out some details, some information. But I just really want to get straight to the point as best as I can. Um, If you listen to the first episode, which was the introduction, I kind of talked briefly on toxic relationships and how I would be talking about my experience and obviously me contemplating this relationship with my ex. So I really want to start with the red flags. I know initially I was like, oh, I'm gonna really talk about like what I did wrong in the relationship, um, because I didn't want to paint him in this negative picture. But I'm going to talk about red flags and why this relationship led to me contemplating it in the first place. So there are 4 red flags, but some of them can obviously be lumped together. So let's get into that, right? So the first red flag that I'm going to talk about is possessiveness. Number 2, jealousy. Number 3, lack of motivation, which is the number 1 reason for me contemplating that whole relationship. And number 4, complacency. So these are my red flags. Okay. And let's just get into it. So starting with the first one, which is possessiveness. So just kind of to give a quick backstory, I met my ex when I was 14. We started dating when I was 15. We were long distance in a long distance relationship. When I was 17, we finally ended up in the same place. I ended up moving in the middle of my senior year, and his mom happened to be moving to the same area that we were moving to, so we actually got to see each other. We were going to end up long distance again because I would be going away for college. So at 18, we got engaged. And by the way, I was 18, but he was 20. So he was 2 years older than me. 19, we started living together. But yeah, things kind of progressed fast in the relationship. This was not my first boyfriend, but my first serious relationship. My parents, strict parents. I'm the only girl. I'm the oldest, 2 younger brothers, but I'm the only girl. And yeah, my parents were strict when it came to me. So I was not allowed to date until I graduated high school, and I wasn't allowed to talk to boys on the phone until I was 16. Now, being a teenager, I snuck and I did things that I wasn't supposed to do. Typical teenage girl. However, I was innocent. I will say that. Um, I had morals, I had respect for myself, but I did, talk to boys on the phone well before 16, and I dated well before 16. Um, so back into the story. So that kind of gives you just a backstory on everything. Possessiveness. I never noticed these things while I was in the relationship. It was once I left the relationship and I started looking back on like what went wrong. That is when I started realizing some things. And just a side note, please excuse my voice. I am trying to get over a cold, so I may sound a little congested. But, anyways, when we were together, um, obviously not long distance, but like actually together, he would like give, like, whenever like other guys were around, like he would basically make it known that, we were together and like, kind of give guys like this look. I call it like the death stare. But, like I didn't think anything of those things. When he proposed, I mean, it was definitely shocking because even though marriage and things were things that we discussed, he knew that I wanted to go to college. He knew that I was focused on that, nothing else. I did not want to be in college and be married. I definitely wanted to wait later to get married, like in my 20s, more like mid 20s. Uh, so yeah, like I had goals, ambitions. I had things that I was trying to accomplish. And he knew this. And I felt like looking back on it, you know, him proposing to me at that young of an age was him marking his territory, basically. Like, oh, I know she's about to go away to college and we're going to be long distance. So that was his way of saying, like, to other guys, like, she's taken. Because, of course, I wore my ring proudly. When guys ask, yes, I told them I'm engaged, Um, and of course, I loved my ex at the time, and it was something I was excited about. I never really saw it as me like not getting to enjoy life because that was who I wanted to spend my life with. So, yeah. And so that kind of like leads me into like jealousy, right? He was definitely jealous. And mind you, I know that in relationships, there's going to be moments of possessiveness and moments of like jealousy. Like it happens. But when it's like a constant thing, that's when it's like a red flag and that's when it's an issue. And so he would always be like questioning my friendships with the opposite sex. Mind you, I've always preferred male friends over female friends. It wasn't until I obviously got older that most of my friends started to be girls, but mm, from elementary, high school, I mean, my friends were dudes. So that's just, I don't know, that's just what I prefer. And it could be because, the only girl, and a lot of times my brother's friends end up being my friends. So I don't know, but that's just how it was for me. And yeah, and this is something that he knew. But I know that when I would talk about like my male friends to him, like he would feel some type of way. I would think like you should be happy that I'm not like trying to hide the fact that I have male friends, but he would be like, well, like he just wants to get in your pants and da 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 da. It was always some negative thing. Now, mind you, that very well could have been the truth. However, I didn't feel that was the case. None of my male friends came on to me. They didn't, um, try and get with me or confess their feelings to me. That wasn't anything that was taking place. There was a friend um, that I had since I was like 10 years old that is a guy. And, I kind of have explained to my ex that, he was the person that I thought I would spend the rest of my life with. And it just didn't work out that way. Um, we went down different paths in life, so it didn't happen, but we remained friends. Now, that friend was very open about his feelings for me and was trying to pursue me while I was with my ex. Um, but I also told my ex that that was like my childhood friend and I wasn't just going to abandon him. Also, he was going through like really difficult time and I was trying to be there for him. But I would always tell him you have to respect my relationship or I'm going to have to distance myself from you. Um, but I didn't really see it as a big issue mainly because we didn't live in the same area. So we only talked on the phone because we lived in different states. I understood my ex being jealous in that sense. But with all my other friends, especially like my best friend, so in college, my freshman year, I met my best friend, and we are still best friends to this day. Shout out to him. Um, but we are like brother and sister, okay? There is no interest romantically. Okay, we would kill each other, literally. Um, but yeah, we're like brother and sister. Like I love him to death. And I just never seen him in that way. So initially my ex was feeling some type of way about my best friend because I spent a lot of time with him. Obviously, we had the same major, like so yeah, it makes sense. We're gonna see each other and we hang out. We have good times. So, but in the beginning, he wasn't feeling it. But then obviously he got to know my best friend and realized like, yeah, there's nothing for him to be worried about. But mind you, we are long distance for, I believe, my first semester of college and part of the second semester. So he decides that he's going to move to where I go to school. And at that time, like I said, I didn't think anything of it. It's like, oh, like he loves me so much. He wants to, be close to me. That's exactly how I felt. And he moved literally down the street from my university. Now, I continued to live on campus even while, he was living there. It wasn't until my senior year that I was like, okay, I'm not going to stay on campus. I'm going to just live with you full time. Because prior to that, I was only living with him in the summers because he ended up getting me a job where he worked. So, um, not only were we seeing each other like all the time, but we were working together. Now, the only time I get a break from you is like when I'm at school. It, it just, I started to feel smothered in a way. And I'm the type of person, like, I need my space. Like, I like being around like my family and my friends, but it gets to a point where like my social battery gets drained and I just don't want to be bothered. Like, leave me alone. And that's kind of how I started to feel in the relationship. I started to feel smothered. Like, now my world kind of had to revolve around him. It wasn't just like, oh, it's Lene, in college, long distance relationship, and I'm just having the time of my life. Like, no. Um, Now, mind you, if you know me personally, I'm gonna do what I want to do. So that doesn't mean that I still didn't go to the club and all of those things. I still did those things. But obviously, I had to hear about it from my ex, you know? And it's like, I'm just going there to have fun, to dance, and I dance with my girlfriends. It's not like I was dancing on guys or anything like that, But yeah, because I still wanted to enjoy being young and being in college. Um, but like at the same time, still being respectful of my relationship. So that's how the possessiveness and jealousy and all of that goes hand in hand. Um, and yeah, it mainly was the same thing all the time. And even like at work, I became close to one of my coworkers. That's a male. And my ex felt some type of way about that. Like, he likes you, like, oh, he's sending me messages on Facebook and talking about, X, Y, and Z. And I'm just like, what in the world are you talking about? Like, the boy didn't even speak English that well. So, how is he sending you messages about such and such? So, it was just all sorts of things, but mainly me feeling smothered. Like from ages, 15 to 19, I would say our relationship was great. And then it started to take a turn. And then, you know, I just was doing things to sabotage the relationship, like calling him names, like just being just cruel to him, because I didn't want to be the one to break up with him. I wanted him to break up with me, and he just would not break up with me, So I was really being a bee. And yeah, just when I look back at how I behaved in that relationship, I am ashamed of myself. Um, because I did a lot of messed up things. And it's not that I did, it's more like I said things. I really cut him with my words, and he did not deserve that. Um, and that is actually something I apologized to him for, like even after we had ended things, because it was just something that really ate away at me for a long time, how I treated him towards the end of our relationship. But I would do these things and he wouldn't bite. And I remember one particular time I broke up with him because we would do that. Like we would be on and off, on and off. And he literally chased me. Like, I was driving in the car and he literally ran after the car while I was driving away. And that's when I was like, this is too much. But I think even though I knew I wanted to leave the relationship early on, I knew it pretty early. So around like 20, I would say. I was like, yeah, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. But I stayed because I was fixated on a fairy tale. I wanted to be the high school sweethearts. Um, Basically, yeah, I wanted to be the high school sweethearts. And there's some other reasons as to why I stayed as well. I had low self-esteem. I didn't think that anyone would love me considering the flaws that I had, and he accepted all of my flaws. And so I was like, probably not gonna find someone else like this. So might as well suck it up. And, the list goes on, but mainly because I was fixated on a fairy tale. And that's what I wanted, and I realized that that was stupid of my that was stupid of me. Um and yeah, but it took me a long time to realize that. Uh but let's move on to number 3, which is lack of motivation. Red flag. And this is the one that pretty much sets the tone for things ending pretty much. I kind of have to give a little backstory again. So, um, he did not have his high school diploma, and it was an unfortunate situation, but something happened and he got expelled um his senior year. And yeah, so he wasn't able to get his high school diploma. I had been trying to help him, do like programs where you could get like a high school diploma because they had some things that you could do. So like, alternative schools, things like that. So yeah, I was trying to help him with that. But he just unmotivated. He lacked motivation. That was what irked me the most in our relationship because I'm a determined individual. Like, once I, you know, set my mind on something, like, I do it until I'm either bored of it or whatever. But I am a determined person. I am goal oriented. Like, when I set a goal, yeah, I really want to achieve, like, I achieve it. And he just wasn't that way. So he was working retail and he seemed, fourth red flag, complacent with that. Like, and I'm just like, we're talking about building a life together. Like, you propose, we're trying to plan a wedding, all this stuff, and you're just okay with where you are. And I'm not okay with that because I'm not even okay with working retail. Like, even after graduating, I was still working retail because it was so difficult finding a job. Um, so he, you know, initially wanted to be a zoologist. And, I was like, whatever, like I was okay with that because I knew how much he loved animals. So it made sense. And I was like, you sure you don't want to be like, um, what do they call? I can't even think of what they call animal doctors right now. I just totally had a blank. But, that's what I would say to him. Like, are you sure? Like, you don't want to do that? And he's like, no, I want to be a zoologist. Da, da, da. And I was like, okay, I'm going to support you if that's what you want to do. But I'm like, you're going to have to either try and get this diploma or get a GED. And then when he moved to where I was going to school, he changed his mind and he said he wanted to be a paramedic. And so I was like, okay, that's that sounds great, you know? And I was like, there's programs that you can do. We had a local community college there that had a program, and it seemed like a really good program. And I had mentioned it to him, and I was, breaking down like how much it cost, how long it was gonna take him. Um, like I really did all the research for him. And yeah, and so he just sat on it and sat on it and sat on it, and I was like, "Come on, like you need to start." And he's like, "Oh, I don't think I want to do that anymore." And it's just like, "Okay, well, what do you want to do?" Because here I am, you know, working my behind off, you know, and you're still just complacent, you know. And I believe it wasn't until my junior year of college that he had finally gone to start working on his GED. So basically, it was like classes that they had to like prepare them for the GED. Because getting your GED is not easy. It's hard. And so he wanted to make sure he was prepared. And so they had them taking courses. And I really believe the only reason he did it is because his brother was also working towards getting his GED. And so because his brother was doing it, I think he was like, oh, well, might as well do it too. But I had also broken up with him. And then I think that lit a fire, but that fire didn't last long. Um, because out of nowhere, he was like, I think I want to be an actor. And I'm like, what? Like, where is this coming from? And he was like, yeah, like, I am going to be taking some like impromptu acting classes. And sure enough, he did. He took some impromptu acting classes, and I guess he thought he was going to be the next Will Smith or something. And I'm just like, dude, I am not, I'm all about dreaming, like I believe you should never stop dreaming and you should go after your dreams. But I'm like, we are trying to have stability. And I am not busting my behind for you to be like, I'm gonna be an actor. Like, no. And so all of these things just started like building and building and building. And I just was getting frustrated. And it basically made me start to resent him, really. Like, I started to have resentment, and I was just like, this cannot be my life. Eventually, I end up moving back home, and I knew I wasn't coming back to Jacksonville, but I was like, oh yeah, like I'll come back. Um, but no, like I left him there. I think he kind of also knew that this may be the end. We continued, obviously, the relationship. We went, uh, like he would come and visit me. I did not go visit him. He would come and visit me. And I was just like, I'm actually okay when he's not there. And but me still fixated on a fairy tale. We start we took engagement photos, which I paid for. We um I had to put down a deposit on our venue, which we were gonna have a beach wedding, and I think that deposit was like $450, which I paid for. Um, we had planned the honeymoon, which I paid for. Testings. I mean, we did like so much. Like everything was pretty much planned. Like I was getting my bridesmaids, going through all these things. I'm trying to remember if I bought a dress. I don't even remember at this point. It's been so long ago. And I have this thing where I try to forget things that aren't good memories, basically. Yeah, I wasted and spent so much money. And I just woke up one day, and I will tell you guys what was the straw that broke the camel's back. He had a ticket that he did not pay, and as a result of that, his license was suspended. He didn't know this. He was driving around with a suspended license. I don't even remember how I found out about this. I really don't know. But he didn't know about it. And I had called to like try and figure out, okay, how can we unsuspend his license? Like, how much is this ticket? And because, like if you don't pay a ticket, like by the time they want you to pay it, then they just tax on fees. Like it's just fees on top of fees. And so the ticket ended up being like over 400 something dollars. I paid it. I paid it. In a way, when I look back on it, I was an enabler. I enabled him uh, throughout the relationship. And basically, yeah, I handicapped him. And because whenever he would mess up, not pay a bill, you know, the lights about to get turned off or the lights are turned off, phone turned off, whatever, I had to save the day. I mean, that's pretty much what happened. I was always dishing out money to save the day. And I will never forget one time I had to call home and it killed me to have to do that because I wanted to be independent. Like when I left home, like I wanted to not have to depend on other people. And I had to call home and ask for money because I had an issue with the car and it was both of our cars. So, um, and I didn't have money to pay for it. And my dad told me something like, because when I look back on like how much money I had spent, especially when it came to like the wedding and stuff like that, because I even had the hotel booked for like my bridesmaids. Like I had so much, I like spent so much money. And my dad was like, basically, would you rather have spent this money and basically like you spent the money, you lost it, or would you have rather went on with a marriage and been miserable? And basically I made the right choice. Yeah, I spent money, okay? And even after we broke up, I was still dealing with stuff because I had co-signed on a car for him. And when he missed payments, guess who they're calling? They're calling me. So my credit ended up getting messed up because I just was like, I refuse to dish out more money. Like, he's not my problem anymore. Yeah, I co signed on this, but that was because we were together at the time. But no, I'm not doing it. So yeah, my credit took a hit. And yeah, but just the lack of motivation, the complacency, and we might as well put irresponsible. Irresponsibility should also be on here as a red flag because that is what I dealt with. And because of those things, it turned into a toxic relationship, mainly because I made it toxic with me trying to sabotage the relationship, me calling him all sorts of names in the book. and I'm not gonna repeat the names that I called him. But yeah, it made me basically verbally abusive to him. And so his actions caused toxicity. And because I was stressed and I couldn't just be done with him, I was volatile verbally. And I hope that someone is listening to this and you may be in a similar predicament, and maybe this is what you needed to hear, to be like, hey, it is okay to leave that relationship. It is okay to give up on a fairy tale, because the thing is, when I closed that door, my husband came. And I mean, like, it was quick. Like, I don't remember when I broke up with my ex. We were together for 8 years. So I don't remember exactly when we broke up. But um, not long after our breakup, I ended up meeting my now husband. So my blessings were being blocked. And it wasn't until I closed the book that I started a whole new one, because I'm not gonna say a new chapter. I closed an entire book and started a new book. And I am happy. Everyone's going to have like ups and downs in relationships. There's trials and tribulations. And those things are normal, but it's like, are you happy? And I knew early on that I wasn't happy, but I continued to stay. And now that I know what real happiness is, that's how I know I wasn't truly happy in that relationship. Please, please, if you're listening to this, if you are in a toxic relationship, let this be the sign, or let this be the motivation for you to close that door, because it could very well be blocking potential blessings for you. And I feel that this is a good note to end this episode. So, on the next episode, we will be talking about contemplation as it deals with college and career. So, that will be part 2 of this 3-part series. And I hope you guys enjoy. If there's anything that you would like to hear on this podcast, or questions, concerns, or even if you want to share your story for me to share with listeners and viewers, please reach out to me on Instagram, or in the comment section on YouTube, wherever you find me. Feel free to send me a message and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But yeah, I hope you have a blessed day, and until next time, Johnny.